Well, taking a look at the Aggies lineup, the top 4 hitters from yesterday went 10 of 15. Kelby Fortenberry starting things off, just one of 12 players coming into this weekend in Division I college softball not to have struck out so far this season. And we're underway. Strike one from Harris. Harris, a sophomore lefty out of Oak Park, Illinois. Picked up a win, her 4th of the season against Georgia State. So the junior center fielder, Kelby Fortenberry, working with an 0-2 count. Fouls it off. Continued her on-base streak yesterday. She's been successful getting on base the last 17 games. Went 3 for 4 in that 7-6 losing effort last night to the Tigers.
Fortenberry has been really saving her best year for this year. And the improvements she's made from the postseason until now have been what's been key. She gained the confidence, she's putting the bat on the ball, obviously with no strikeouts, having quality at bats, and has been really effective in the leadoff spot this year.
Harris dealing the 0-2. And continuing to foul pitches off is Fortenberry, a very tough out, as we've already mentioned. Junior out of East Bernard, Texas, really stepping into a position, especially on the defensive side in center field, taking over for the 4-year starter, Erica Russell. After 4 straight fouls, she lifts this one into center field, and the first out is recorded.
With one out, the batter's number 2, the left fielder, Blake Ann Fritz.
Blake Ann Fritz now up to bat, and when you look at the Aggies and just how they started out SEC play last weekend against LSU, they dropped 2 of 3, but were able to walk away with the win in that final game of the series, as you mentioned. Then they come back and rally against Auburn, come up just short, but you like the fight that you're seeing early on from Joe Evans' group.
Absolutely, and Joe Evans talked about this team is basically an entirely new team with the exception of Riley Sarton really at third base, who was a staple for the Aggies last season. So they had to just figure out that they could beat a top-ranked opponent, that they had it in them to do it. And it took some guts. I mean, they had to scratch from behind and claw their way back into that game, but believing is half of the battle, and they found a way to turn that belief into a reality, and now they had a better time against Auburn, and they got down early against Auburn and kept clawing back in last night's game as well.
Fritz into right field, over the wall, say bye-bye to that one. Blake Ann Fritz with her first home run of the season. And the junior puts the Aggies on the board, and that hot hitting continues from last night. They racked up 12 hits in game 1, and now the first hit of the day leaves the park.
Already we've seen from Harris that mixing of speeds. This is a ball that Fritz is just a little bit out in front on, but her barrel just snaps through the zone and extends up and lifts this ball out of the park. I mean, she just pulls on this one, and that goes deep for her first home run of the season.
Fritz is one of those familiar names, and you mentioned also Riley Sarton as well, as the top Aggies are having to replace 9 players from a season ago. Riley Sarton, the lone player, returning as last year's starter. A new look group. Sarton just a constant face in this Aggies program. She fouls that one back.
Sarton had to become the leader on this team. She's the only returner that had consistent playing time, and she's never really been in a leadership position. They had some really, really good seniors last year that took the helm in that position, but she stepped up this year when they needed her. You know, they lost some players with the transfer portal opening up. Samantha Shao, Keely Milligan, Sarah Hudek. So naturally, Riley Sarton was the person that the team looked to when they needed it.
And when you think about just that they graduated on the infield as the 2-2 pitch comes, and Sarton lifts this one high into left field. Underneath it is Bree Fornes for the second out. But you go back to last year, those 9 players, 6 seniors included in that, and then those 3 transfers who moved on from the program. You're having to rebuild. But what I loved in our conversation with Joe Evans earlier this week is the fact that, you know, this is a team that is continuing to learn. Yes, we're young. Yes, we have some struggles with consistency, but beyond all of that, we're a team that's has a growth mindset.
And no win is more exemplative of that than the win against LSU. I mean, they got beat in game 1. I think LSU put up 17 runs against them. It was ugly. And they found a way to, hey, put that in the past, learn from it, move on, and come back better and stronger on Sunday and get one big win.
Well, a big reason why they were able to pick up that win, their first against a top 10 opponent since last season, is because of Bailey Klingler, who stands at the plate now. Chardonnay Harris with a 1-1 count to the freshman. Walked away with a season high 4 hits. Was perfect on yesterday, including blasting a 3-run shot with 2 outs to help cut the lead to 1 for A&M.
Klingler, just a freshman, you can tell that she's starting to elevate her game based upon the level of play. Had a good weekend against LSU, and then obviously in game 1 against Auburn was lights out. I mean, and that's the reality, is sometimes you give these players an opportunity to rise to the level of their competition, and some people do and some don't. Klingler is a great example so far of getting better as the season continues, getting more at-bats.
The 2-2. And this one, a high fly ball. Underneath it is Alyssa Rivera. And that's the 3rd out. But not before A&M gets on the board, courtesy of a home run from Blake Anfrich. Mickey Dean, in his 2nd season on the Plains with the Auburn Tigers, helped lead this group to a great season last year and looking to continue to build on that this time around. And he's got a lot of firepower in that lineup top to bottom. As you mentioned, there's no escaping it. Of course, Kendall Veach coming in at 5 spot, ever so dangerous, but she's protected before and after. And in the circle, you'll see the lefty and Peyton McBride for the Aggies.
Yeah, McBride is really the best pitcher in this Aggies staff. She's going to come in and mix speeds really well. She doesn't throw very hard with much velocity, so she has to rely on her spin. But her best asset is going to be her location. She is spot on with control and the accuracy when she does put so much spin on her pitches.
McBride, junior out of Deer Park, Texas. Gave up 11 hits and 7 earned runs in her last outing for the Aggies, so looking to turn things around. Again, she has some great experience from last year's postseason run before coming up short in that Super Regionals, heartbreaking loss in the Super Regionals down in Gainesville to the University of Florida.
Yeah, McBride came in a lot in relief last year, so now in the starting position that she's going to have a lot more opportunities as that starter to come in and get comfortable, get into a rhythm, versus last season where she was mainly in relief and she didn't have time to settle in and she had to be really, really strong really quickly. And I think that's where you can see the improvement, is somebody that has the opportunity to settle in, to have their time to start fresh and figure out the umpire's zone as they go forward.
That's a strike in there to Taylon Snow. Snow, the sophomore shortstop out of Chino Hills, California. Twin sister Tannen on the team. The grounder over to second, and one down.
Looking at this Auburn offense, I mean, they are potent. I think when you look at them, not only do they have really, really strong home run numbers, but their RBIs, I mean, they have 5 players with over 20 RBIs as well. So I think that's important when you look at this game and who's coming up clutch when they need it. And that's why you have 7+ runs a game, is you have hitters that step into the box and are ready to get runs across the board.
So an illegal pitch called against Peyton McBride. And this Auburn team, to your point, Kayla, just when you're looking at their ranks within all of D1 college softball, I mean, they're in the top 10 in so many different categories. They're leading the SEC with 249 hits coming in. And that mentality is all credited to Mickey Dean and his staff for really helping to clear the mind of batters. How do you think he did that?
Well, I mean, I think he expressed to them that they have to keep it simple. It's not about your batting average. It's about quality at bats. How can I go and attack the pitch that I'm looking for, foul off the ones I'm not, and be productive even when I get out? And I think that's a huge thing that they've made their focus on. And he's trying to get his team to have 60% quality at bats of all their at bats throughout the game.
Backhanded by the third baseman Riley Sarton, and the 5-3 put out, 2 down.
Now batting the right fielder, number 21, Alyssa Rivera.
Welcome into Jane B. Moore Field, game 2 between Texas A&M and Auburn with Caleb Rowe. I'm Tiffany Green. Well, it was the Aggies able to get on the board first with a solo home run shot from Blake Ann Fritch. Now the Auburn Tigers trying to answer in the bottom half.
And Texas A&M got on the board quickly with a big home run by Blake Ann Fritch. Auburn's trying to make some adjustments in their first at bat against Peyton McBride.
McBride in the circle, 7-1 on the season. The lefty making her 11th start of the year. And as you mentioned, Kayla moved from a closer's role the last 2 seasons to now into this starting rotation.
You can also see she's already effectively mixing her speeds really well. This Auburn team in the first couple at bats has been out in front, kind of trying to battle with that spin, get their timing to stay in their legs and square it up, but they have yet to do so. You can see right there, I mean, Rivera's a great example. You can see her knees kind of collapse. I mean, she's trying to see that ball as long as you can, but sometimes your legs give out and buckle on that off-speed pitch, especially one that's moving like that, drastically down and out. That's a hard pitch to foul off, so credit to Rivera as well.
Rivera down the count, 1-2, and then strikes out. So a 1-2-3 inning for Peyton McBride, and they're hanging tight to that 1-0 lead here from Auburn. One run off the bat of Blake Ann Fritch, the junior for Texas A&M, lifted out of the park, pulled this one all the way to the right field and over to put the Aggies on top, 1-0. And again, we saw yesterday in game 1, Texas A&M registered a dozen hits in that 7-6 defeat.
Yeah, this is going to be a team that you see as the season continues. They're young, they're going to get better, and they're going to start having more quality at bats. You saw that last home run. I mean, Blake Ann Fritch was a little bit out in front, but the key was she stayed through it. Her timing was good enough to square up that ball and pull it down the line.
So outside of that, 1 hit, 1 home run, flyouts for the rest of the Aggies in that first inning as Haley Lee starts things off for A&M. one of the new faces in the program out of Kingwood, Texas. And as we mentioned back in that first inning, you know, Kayla, the fact that they're having to replace 9 starters from a season ago. This is a young group as Lee flies out, giving chase to that was Casey McCracken to record the first out. But when you're looking at a program, you're trying to build off of last year's momentum. They made it all the way to the Super Regionals and lost to Florida, but now it's kind of like a restart button for Jo Evans.
Absolutely, but I think what Jo Evans is so good at as a coach is she gets her players to buy in to her style of coaching and her program. I mean, they have a history, a historical tradition. They do all the little things right. They work hard. They have that fight and that fire. They're never going to quit. So for her, it was taking and molding that young team with the idea in mind of we're just going to try and get a little bit better every single day.
Peyton McBride takes ball 1, and what you like about this Aggie program is the fact that there are so many new faces, or 14 underclassmen in total, so you can kind of help mold them and shape them into the players that, you know, you want them to be in your program.
Well, I think the other, you know, if you're looking for a silver lining, and this is something that you see also with a team like Oregon, is with the transfers and with the graduates, what you have is young players getting an opportunity to rise to the occasion and get quality at-bats over and over and over again and just see a lot of live pitching. And that goes a long way. If you don't get your first really strong number of at-bats until you're a junior or senior, it's a little bit harder. But if you are kind of thrown into the fire as a young player, the opportunity for growth is through the roof, and you're going to see these players get a lot better a lot faster.
Well, you learned that firsthand, obviously, coming from the state of Oregon and playing your college ball at the University of Alabama. And you hear coaches just talk about what the SEC season is like. They're like, hey, it's like a super regional every weekend.
No, I mean, it really is. We laugh when we say that every single week, but it truly is. I mean, you're playing top teams, and there's so much pride on the line, too. I mean, these games matter because these rivalries matter.
The 1-2 to McBride, continuing to foul pitches off as Chardonnay Harris in the circle for the Tigers. And McBride, a hitting pitcher. The 7th pitch of this at-bat on the way. And Harris got her swinging. First strikeout of the day for Chardonnay Harris.
This is a beautiful pitch. It is a changeup that clearly just has so much top spin that just drops right on the lower half of the zone, almost hits the ground before Beach behind the plate's able to get that.
And when we talked with Mickey Dean, you know, he mentioned the fact that, you know, this is a player who is still understanding the game and kind of learning how to pitch. And Dean has obviously coached several great pitchers before, and JMU's Megan Good and Jenny Fitch in the NPF. So
I mean, and no doubt, I mean, she's finesse all day long. You can see her really, really working hard, not necessarily exploding off of the rubber, but trying to manipulate the spin of each and every single one of her pitches and really keep Texas A&M off balance. And that changeup, as we keep moving forward, is going to be the equalizer to keep this offense at bay.
Well, Harris talked about just her confidence being way up. Pitched 3 perfect innings in that win against Georgia State. Struck out 6 of the 9 batters she faced. The 2-1 delivery to Kelly Martinez. Check swing there. Now 2-2. Martinez, the transfer from Utah, joined the program back in January after she made a visit in the new year. A week later, she started school at College Station. And back-to-back strikeouts from Chardonnay Harris, continuing to look sharp in the circle, minus that home run. And 4, 5, 6 coming up from Auburn.
This is a nice curveball to end the inning for the Auburn Tigers coming up to bat.
Well, Sunday, March 3rd, a deadly tornado ripped through the deep south and hit parts of Alabama, including Beauregard, just about 10 miles from Auburn. Members of the baseball, softball, and track teams went to help out with the cleanup here in Lee County and getting their hands dirty, moving logs and branches and debris, and a great way to give back to a community, as Mickey Dean said, who has given so much to them.
Yeah, I mean, he asked his players, he said, hey, it's going to be Thursday morning, it's going to be early, we have a big series this weekend, it's your choice. And without a doubt, hands down, every single player on the team wanted to go out there and put in the work to help this community, like you said, that has supported this softball program so well.
Tannen Snow stands in. That 6 a.m. wake-up call, mighty early, but the players said they wanted to do this. And so I applaud them and their heart and their efforts as our prayers and thoughts go to those affected by the tornado. Filed away. Snow, who transferred in from the University of Washington, went 2 for 4 yesterday. The player with 8 home runs already rips this one past a diving Riley Sarton and a long single down the left field line. The leadoff runner on board. Well, Sunday at 5 Eastern, we'll have the second game of the big 3-game series between number 7 Florida and number 8 LSU in Baton Rouge. SEC softball is also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Well, all eyes definitely on the Bayou Bengals and the Rowdy Reptiles, because that's great pitching and defense versus great offense.
Yeah, LSU's been so impressive this season. I mean, the lineup that they've put together, adding Amanda Sanchez, the transfer from Missouri, has made all the difference for that program. They have some young pitchers, but they are definitely offensively supporting those young pitchers in the circle.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about graduating to All-Americans.
No kidding, yeah.
Carly Hoover and Allie Wall-Jasper. Shelby Sunseri has done a great job, both in the circle and at the plate for Beth Torena.
Yeah, and they're going to have to go and face Kelly Barnhill. Yeah. And Kelly Barnhill's going to have an interesting weekend because she got touched up against Tennessee in their opening series in SEC play. Had a good bounce-back performance on Sunday. But LSU has some good tape to look at to see some success offensively off of Barnhill.
Yeah, no kidding. How about the offense from Kendall Veach this season? I mean, she has just been on fire for the Tigers, originally out of Selma, Alabama. And she has certainly had an impressive week. The last 7 days for her have gone up, or excuse me, have looked great. Her power numbers have gone up. And really, when we talk with Mickey Dean, why has she seen such success? He says we just simplified things. First 3-ball count for McBride, and tagging that one in the left center. See ya! Kendall Veach continues. Already top 10 in Auburn program history for home runs for her career, and add another one.
Hey, we heard from Mickey Dean this week. He said patience equals purpose with Kendall Veach. Well, she was waiting on this pitch, got something in her wheelhouse, and absolutely tattooed it. I mean, this is a good pitch. She's a little bit out in front, but the extension from the barrel right here to stay on plane and drive through this ball is what gets her, you know, that lucky number 13 home run on the season.
And just like that, with one swing, Auburn grabs the lead, 2-1.
And something I look at with Kendall Veach, going back to that, is she doesn't have the highest average on the team. She's hitting around 320. And what that tells me is that, okay, yes, she's not going to be, you know, that consistent 2 for 2 every single day, but when it matters most, she's going to come up with the big hit, like that time right there.
Brittany Mayer set off the end of the bat and pops out to second.
And there's just some players in the country that there's just ice in their veins with runners on base, that they just turn into another hitter when there's runners on base. I think of a player like Amanda Lorenz, you know, going back Megan Gregg, who was the RBI queen at Tennessee that graduated last year. Just some players step up, and Kendall Veach is one of those.
We told you coming in that this is a potent offense for the Tigers. And they can hurt you a number of different ways, leading the SEC in average during conference play, although this is just the second weekend. Of course, this is the first set of conference games for the Tigers, as Justice Perry now down on the count 0-2. Well, Tigers coming in with a 10-game winning streak. Rather, 9-game winning streak coming into SEC play. And Perry committed, went around, and the strikeout, the second for McBride.
And this is a pitch that McBride has to throw to be effective against Auburn for the rest of the day. It's an off-speed. Look at that break, not only down, but it has a little bit of a break inside across the plate that just totally jams up Perry. And that's hard as a batter. Not only are you know, your head and everything and your body has shifted forward because you're off on your timing, but then the ball's kind of coming at you. It just crosses you up, and that's probably one of the most difficult pitches to hit, is an off-speed that's moving down and in.
2 outs now for Bree Fornes. Fornes, one of the seniors out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Swings through that one.
It's funny, you look at the difference between this Auburn lineup and the Texas A&M lineup. Only one underclassman for Auburn. They're all juniors and seniors, a ton of experience, ton of leadership, and then Texas A&M had to basically replace their entire roster. So a tale of two teams. You know, both are trying to fight for some wins in SEC play.
And that one registers as a strikeout for Peyton McBride, but the runs on the board for both sides have come courtesy of the long ball.
Kendall Veach puts her stamp on this ball. A long home run to give Auburn the lead early in this game. Aggies trying to fight back.
Fun at the ballpark, nothing like a little horse race in the outfield, and I think this young lady is edging out the young man.
Yeah, I don't think it's even close.
Not even close, man. She's already rounding the cone. He still can't get
out of the gate.
Get out of the gate, yeah. Oh, good time, as pretty good crowd on hand here at Jane B. Moore Field. Always usually a packed house of blue and orange. Great support for the Auburn Tigers. They're up 2-1 over Texas A&M here in the top of the third. Ashlyn Walls, sophomore shortstop, stands in. Those solid lefties in the lineup for the Aggies. Well, we know the long ball ability of Auburn, but when you look at Texas A&M, you know, they too have the ability to set the table, manufacture runs, get runners on, as there, Wall's a great example, beating it out. And she's on safely at first.
Ashlyn Walls puts down a beautiful bunt. You can see this ball hits off the very end of her bat, so it's going to deaden and spin, and it gives her just enough time to beat it out. I mean, look at the spin on that ball. I mean, that's a tough play, and that is masterful short game work there by Walls.
She can slap, drag, and hit it away, and we saw a good example there of the drag. As Morgan Smith at the plate. It's not too often that you see a player covering up the jersey and having seemingly a practice shirt on.
I'm not gonna lie to you, it didn't seem like it's that cold outside. I mean, it's definitely not, you know, Texas hot, but hey, it's definitely well above freezing.
Well, you and I joked coming in and said, well, you know, it's a little nip in the air, though. It's wind blowing in just a touch, and handcuff there, and Smith pops out. Well, Thursday we'll have SEC baseball for you at 7 Eastern. Number 7 Florida takes on second-ranked Vanderbilt in their first game of a big 3-game series at Hawkins Field in Nashville. It's right here on the SEC Network and on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Florida dropped a conference game to Mississippi State, 7-4 earlier today. And then conversely on the softball side, it was Mississippi State who was narrowly beat out by Kentucky, 9-8. Abby Cheek had 4 RBI, including the game-winning ground out. But I'll tell you, when you look at the video, oh, there are going to be some questions coming.
Yeah, maybe a potential interference over at first base by Abby Cheek. It's not called, which impedes the throw to home, and that run scores, and that's the game.
Berry over to short. Safely at first base after the fielder's choice.
You know, Tiffany, I can't help but go back to that at bat by Morgan Smith. You know, she pops up after Ashlyn Walls gets that leadoff bunt, and that's an out that's unproductive. You have the top of your lineup coming up, and with the way that they hit in yesterday's game, I mean, they were dominant. The top part of Texas A&M's lineup was like, what, 10 for 15 yesterday? I mean, when you have that kind of success, you got to make sure you do the little things right and give those big hitters the opportunity to get runners across.
Well, Blake Ann Fritsch turned into a big hitter in that first inning, going yard.
I mean, this swing, she did such a good job. It was a little bit of an off speed. She stayed back and stayed through it long enough to hit this ball out of the park. Don't expect that she's going to get many more pitches that low and inside again.
Her first home run of the season to get the Aggies on the board first, and here with another opportunity to perhaps tie it up or take the lead. The 1-2. Going up in the zone to chase that one, fouls it off. It's Fritsch, she stays alive.
With the exception of the home run, Harris has actually done a really nice job handling this Texas A&M lineup. A lot of pop-ups induced. She had a couple strikeouts last inning, but she's trying to get that spin, starting to get it to work a little bit better. Her curveball is breaking a little bit. And the biggest thing is the off-speed. We saw the same thing with Peyton McBride. I mean, it truly is the equalizer. If you can throw that and make it, you know, at the knees or in between the knees and the ankles for a hitter, it's tough to stay in the box and feel comfortable.
When you're assessing her outs, 5 have come by way of fly or pop out, 2 strikeouts, and a ground out. Now full count to Fritsch. Saw Fortenberry take it off on that one. Will trot back to first base and give it another go. First 3-ball count for Harris. Fritsch in the left field, and right there's Bree Fornes to collect that one. So 1 hit, no runs given up, and Tigers still holding tight to that 2-1 lead. Auburn fans enjoying this one as the Tigers on top 2-1. And when you look around the SEC, well, they
see series and see how the not just Montana Fouts as the freshman, but the rest of their pitching staff does.
It's going to be a really interesting season, as this one was laced over to third base, dropped by Riley Sarton, collects it again, and still able to record the out. Morgan Padani is retired.
It's a hot shot. They don't call it the hot corner for nothing. Riley Sarton just pulls her head a little bit too soon, but keeps her wits about her and makes a nice throw over to first base to get the out in plenty of time.
First pitch swinging for Taylon Snow, and quickly 2 away for the Tigers.
It's the second time in a row Taylon Snow's been way out in front. She had her first hit of the game. It was a ground ball to second base, a little bit out in front. That one just hit off the very end of her bat, a little dribbler to shortstop. So that's where McBride's effective, is that change of speeds. And now that you see Auburn coming up through the second time, how are they going to adjust? What pitches are they going to sit on to try and handle her sharp movement and the off speed?
There's Casey McCracken taking a strike.
I mean, you look at softball right now, typically when you see an ace, they're going to throw in the mid to upper 60s. Well, McBride's fastest pitch is hitting 60 miles per hour consistently, maybe 61 on a good day. And then she's going to throw anywhere between 50 and 60 in terms of her spin and speed. So, I mean, this is something that Auburn has to make an adjustment to, period. It's almost like you're sitting on an off speed almost every single time.
Carradale works with the pitchers, and one of the things that she's worked with is being able to go right at those hitters. McBride has done so, and that helps her to register a 1-2-3 inning, and we'll get a chance to talk with Coach Joe Evans about the performance in the circle from McBride and the hitters at the plate when you come back. Near the top of the fourth, Auburn leading 2-1 as Texas A&M head coach Joe Evans joins us now. And Coach, you talked about Peyton McBride coming in, her ability to change speeds, only giving up 2 hits, including that home run. But what have you seen from her out of the circle today?
I think she looks good. She's mixing up her speeds and hitting her location, and unfortunately they get all of the one. But, you know, she's making a lot of hitters look bad right now.
And Blakey and Fritch, Coach, got her first home run of the day. What did you like about her at bat?
Well, she's never hit a home run. So, you know, I like that the kid got her first career home run. That's a big deal. Everybody loves Blake Ann. She's worked really hard to get into our lineup as a junior. So really excited for her.
All right, thanks, Coach. We appreciate your time.
All right, thanks.
How about that first home run of her career and helping to just add a little extra juice to this lineup. Now you know what you're working with, a player who can take a yard every once in a while.
And I like that when a player, and you heard it from Coach Evans right there, is that the team likes her. And when she does something good, it kind of gives momentum and energy and gives confidence to the rest of the players on the team.
Riley Sarton, this one going deep to left field to the warning track, and Fornes is able to bring it in.
With one out, the batter's number 8, first baseman, Haley Klingler.
Well, the ball certainly seems to fly a little differently here. A lot of home runs hit out of the park from Jane B. Moore Field. Now it's 201 down the lines, 220 straightaway center. And I appreciate it. It was just like a little subtle,
a little something.
Subtle whip around. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a full commit. It was just like, there I am.
You know what's funny? We were talking before the game, and I said right away, this is a home run hitter's park, and I don't know why that is. It's a regulation fence. I mean, the wind's blowing in today, so that one might have stopped Riley Sarton's hit right there a little bit, kind of hit a wall, but this is definitely a park that, for whatever reason, I think the wind typically most of the time blows out, especially towards the right side of the field. So, I mean, the opportunity is there, but the wind is blowing in right now.
Yeah. Klingler now down the count, 1-2, and the freshman coming in, leading the way in SEC play with 7 hits, including a couple of home runs and 7 runs batted in as well in her debut season of conference play. This one low and in the dirt, now 2-2. Chardonnay Harris, as you mentioned, Kayla has done a really good job of really slowing down these bats after 12 hits yesterday for the Aggies. And so what have you liked, and I know we'll get a chance to talk with Mickey Dean, but what have you liked from her?
Yeah, well, I liked, number one, how effective she is locating at very different parts of the zone. You can see her off-speed pitch is almost at the ankles in the dirt, and then she throws that rise ball, so you're getting the batter to constantly be moving with their eyes up and down. So, again, trying to force them to sit on one pitch.
Klingler flying out to the outfield. Underneath it is Alyssa Rivera. Well, we talked about how the ball can travel out of this park. You look over at Davis Diamond. I mean, this is an amazing facility,
yes.
And they can leave the ballpark here too. $28.6 million. I mean, state of the art, top of the line, just the envy of all in college softball right now.
I mean, as a former player, I just look at that, and honestly, I would have never guessed that a softball stadium could be that massive, that beautiful, and just be, I mean, basically the crown jewel of all college softball stadiums. That is beyond my imagination of what could have happened at this level, and I think Texas A&M has set the standard now for an incredible facility, and the rest of the SEC is going to have to be looking at them. Hey, what do we got to do to upgrade our facilities?
Well, all teams will converge on College Station and play the SEC tournament in Davis Diamond. I think many are looking forward to that for sure. Interestingly enough, it was Texas A&M hosting Auburn in the first game played in that park, and they were able to sweep the series that weekend. Two balls, one strike. Another strike recorded there to Haley Lee.
And we talked about with Harris the drop ball and the rise ball, but this is the curve. Look at that break. I mean, that's cutting across the plate.
It was wicked how it came in, and you saw the reaction from
Haley
Lee on
Lee
her
wasn't
face.
even looking for that pitch. I mean, she was surprised.
Strikeout number 3 for Chardonnay Harris. So 3 up, 3 down for the Aggies, and we'll talk with the Auburn head coach, Mickey Dean, on the other side. Welcome back to the Plains. Auburn on top 2-1 over Texas A&M. Tigers head coach Mickey Dean joins us now. And Coach, you talked about just the way your team has approached this season offensively. How do they get more quality at bats against Peyton McBride?
Just got to be more patient. Just be a little bit more patient. We just talked about that.
And Coach, you have had, once Chardonnay Harris has really settled in, she's been strong. What are you seeing that's making her so effective today?
She's hitting her spots. She's attacking the zone. You know, we told them about, we talked before the game about just not giving their batters an opportunity to breathe, attack the zone, hit your spots.
All right, thanks, Coach. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And he says, look, we've got to be a little bit more patient. That's something he had just mentioned to his batters. And when you look outside of that home run earlier, they've got 5 groundouts, 2 strikeouts, and 2 flyouts for this Tigers lineup. And you said something about quality at bats. 60% of the time they want to hit that number. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you define it. But when I think about a quality at bat, it's a high pitch count.
As Alyssa Rivera hits it right back to McBride, she had to shield herself a little bit and aboard with the single. So that's a quality at bat.
Absolutely, I was going to say, it's definitely a quality at bat. She attacks his first pitch over the strike zone, hits this ball hard right back at Peyton McBride. But that's it. You know, he talked about patience, but you got to be ready when it comes to you. And this is a ball that's breaking a little bit on the outside part of the plate. And Alyssa Rivera does a good job of squaring it up. Look at how even her barrel is with that ball. I mean, that's good timing right there on that pitch, especially on a ball that's moving away from her. But again, going back to quality at bats, you know, I think if you have a long at bat, so, you know, 6 or more pitches, 7 or 8 pitches is a quality at bat where you're fighting, you're fouling pitches off. But beyond that, if you get a sacrifice bunt down, if you move a runner, if you have an effective out, a sacrifice fly.
As Rivera is taking off, testing the arm of Lee behind the plate, and she's in safely at second. So now a runner in scoring position for the Tigers.
It's a good jump over there at first base. Rivera actually almost slid a little bit too soon on that. She kind of slowed down as she approached second base, maybe diving headfirst, just like, you know, maybe a half a step too soon.
Her 12th steal of the season. And now Snow, who has 26 RBI, drives in another run. That one bounces off the right field wall. Rivera touches home plate. The crowd is ignited. 3-1 Auburn.
Second time through the lineup is all about adjustments. Both Rivera and Tannen Snow on this pitch get a ball that's spinning, and they just square it up. It's on the outside corner. Look at her hands throw through right to the right side of the outfield and just pelts this ball off the wall. And because it hits the wall, it gives Rivera an easy opportunity to score standing up.
7th double of the season for Tannen Snow. Her slugging percentage numbers are above 725 coming into this game, and she helps to give a little bit more breathing room for the Tigers. And look, there's no slacking now. And here's the question. I even saw this a little bit. Did Alyssa Rivera actually touch the plate? Yeah, I think maybe her toe may have dragged over it. But I think, too, there's kind of like an assumption that you're touching home plate.
Yeah.
Either way, Peyton McBride doesn't get a break because Kendall Veach is now up to bat. and they're going to intentionally walk her. Well, back in the second, it was Veach who lifted a 2-run shot to put the Tigers on top 2-1.
Crowd giving a strong boo because they want to see more fireworks from Kendall Veach in her last at bat. Just drove a nice home run out of the park to put the Tigers on the board. And this is a smart move by the Aggies. There's no doubt in my mind that you want to create the force out at third base and take the bat out of the hands of your most dangerous hitter, your biggest power threat.
Brittany Marisette on deck. The DP will come to the plate as Veach takes first base. No outs here in the bottom of the fourth with runners at first and second for Auburn.
Yeah, and it's definitely a no-doubter for me. Kendall Veach has, over 28, 29, 30 home runs now. I can count, right? 30 home runs, and behind her, Brittany Marisette only has 7 RBIs. So, I mean, that's a huge difference. No doubt that you put the bat in the hands of her instead.
Well, she was trying to lay down the bunt and move over the runners, and this one just rolls foul, so they'll have to try it again. Marisette actually popped out to second in her first at-bat. Fouls that one off now, down to the count 0-2, and at this point you got to take a swing.
That's right, and this is where you have to have those quality at-bats come into play. You're trying to figure out a way to, in a worst-case scenario, move the runners so you could hit a deep sap fly to the corners, allow Tandon Snow to advance from second to third. You can hit something in the gap and get a run across the board, but the biggest two things that you can't do right here is strike out or pop up. And even though she's got 2 strikes, they're giving her an opportunity potentially to put a little safety drag down. This is where Mickey Dean's being aggressive. He doesn't care if you have 2 strikes. Quality at bats over your own personal success.
Just getting a bat on that one. And going back to Mickey Dean and this staff for Auburn, I mean, they're coming off one of their better offensive seasons in terms of batting average, runs, and stolen bases. So that stolen base from Alyssa Rivera, putting her in scoring position, able to score off the double from Tandon Snow. And again, threatening here with 2 on and no out. And the grounder back to McBride, and McBride opts to go to second base. Are you surprised that she just didn't try to get the runner at first?
Absolutely surprised. I mean, this is a play. Number one, I think Peyton McBride was a little too nonchalant about it. Didn't have that sense of urgency. Took a little bit of a step towards first and then tried to pivot and rethrow to first, as you're going to see right here. So this ball kind of takes her towards first base. She does a little pivot step, tries to regain her footwork over there. And this is a close play. But this is a play if you're Peyton McBride. When the ball takes you towards first base, just get the out at 1. I mean, there's no point in putting your team in a situation where you walk away now with bases loaded and no outs on the board.
And so now Joe Evans comes to the circle and has a quick meeting and trying to group in her infield. And what do you say here? Because now, again, threatening with Justice Perry up to bat and no outs and bases loaded.
Well, a friendly reminder is that it's on the defense to communicate to Peyton McBride. She can't really see, number one, where the fielders are, number two, where the runners are with the positioning that she was in. She has to rely on her defense talking to her. So the defense needs to do a better job of talking to the pitcher. And then beyond that, okay, settle down. Reminders, let's go get the force at home, turn it to 1, turn it to 3, whatever, to try to get a double play and claw or scratch our way out of the inning.
Well, Justice Perry knocked a 3-run shot out of the park last night against Kayla Pointer to put Auburn up 4-4. And this one, she puts it into play, tried to be backhanded by Ashlyn Walls. Everybody is safe, and another run comes across for the Tigers.
This is a tough play for Ashlyn Walls. It's a ball that takes her into the 5-6 hole. Now, as tough as this play may be because she is moving, you can see that's not an athletic position to field that backhand. She kind of pulls her head, straightens out that arm, and there's just no way that you're going to make that play cleanly because of that. And it's that balance, right? You're trying to cut it off so it doesn't get through the 5-6 hole, but you also have to charge and be aggressive with it because it is a hopping ground ball. It doesn't have a lot of pace on it, so you have to find a way to charge and backhand. It's tough, but again, that's the difference between, you know, keeping this game close and potentially get into a run roll situation.
We'll credit Justice Perry with the RBI single as Aspen Godwin, pinch hitting at the plate, takes a look at a strike.
And once again, Texas A&M puts themselves in a situation where, you know, if she makes that play and backhands it, it's still going to be a tough play at home. You can flip to third and try and get an out. So with Peyton McBride's decision-making and that play, Texas A&M is putting in themselves, instead of having 2 outs, has no outs and bases loaded still.
And the freshman placed in a great position to drive in more runs as Godwin eyes the pitch. Grounder, this time handled well by Walls. It's the force out at third base. But the Tigers see a 5 come on that scoreboard. They lead by 4.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a little bit surprised on that play as well. I think, you know, you have an opportunity, if you're Walls, is to go make a great play and get the out at home. I think, to me, it didn't look at all like she had any intention of going home at all in that play. And I think that's what you, before the pitch, you know, hey, bases are loaded, we're going home. We cannot let this game get out of hand. We can only score so many runs. And right now, the Aggies are struggling at the plate. They've had so many pop-ups, few strikeouts, not great at bats today. So 1 or 2 runs makes all the difference.
And obviously, you were an All-American at second base before you made the move to the outfield. So what are those conversations like in practice in terms of situational hitting and fielding?
Well, I think when you look at that situation, she's a freshman, right? So you're not really equipped to handle right away the speed of this game. So how in practice, how can you speed up the play so that you're ready for those situations with as fast as runners that they have on these teams? You have to make quick decisions, but it comes with thinking ahead. It's relying on your, you know, this is stuff that you've known since you were 5 years old. But after you make an error, it's having that foresight to be like, you know what, let's move on, it's okay, bounce back, I'm gonna make the next play. And I just didn't think she had that mentality in the front of her mind was, okay, I gotta be aggressive, go after the ball, and get the out at home. Everything was just hesitant. And I think, again, you look at the leadership on this Aggies team, you know, Riley Sarton is somebody you look to at third base. Hey, like, let's settle down, let's go attack the ball, know where we're going, and go get this next out. Look to somebody like her as a leader to help you get out of that hole that you're in.
3-1 count to Morgan Padani, the 9-hole hitter for Auburn. And taking all the way, bases loaded after the walk. And top of the order with Taylor Stoa.
This is where it gets scary if you're Texas A&M. Is the top of the lineup for Auburn is definitely the most potent. You have some huge hitters coming up with major RBI production and major power numbers.
Snow at the plate, McCracken on deck, and Alyssa Rivera in the hole, and I think Joe Evans is going to make the switch and call in a new arm in the circle for the Aggies, and we'll introduce you to them when we return. Auburn already with 3 runs in this fourth, and perhaps an opportunity to add to that as they have the lead. Peyton McBride, her evening is done. 3 1/3 inning, gave up 5 hits and 5 earned runs as Kendall Potts now stands in the circle for the Aggies.
And Kendall Pott is also going to spin the ball up, similar to Peyton Ride, but from the right side, she's going to throw a little bit faster to the mid to upper 60s, and the key is going to be for her, again, you're facing a really tough team, have to hit the changeup. It has to be on point. Because if you're thrown in the mid to upper 60s against a power team, you're supplying all the force necessary for them to hit the long ball. So if you don't throw something that is slower in velocity, then they're just going to sit on that fast stuff and tee off.
Well, Potts played her first 2 seasons at Baylor before transferring in. Veteran who has struggled with injury throughout her career. Now inherits, bases loaded, 1 out. And the top of the order for the Tigers.
Out the gate, throws that changeup right there. Let this Auburn team know that she's got it in her pocket.
Caleb Rowe, Tiffany Green here with you from Jane B. Moore Field. Auburn with a 5-1 lead over Texas A&M in game 2 of this series. That one gets past Lee. The toss at the plate and safe. Sliding underneath is Justice Perry. And the wild pitch from Potts allows the Tigers to hang another.
This ball just gets away, but look at the slide, the head first slide right to the bag, barely gets her hand in there. Justice Perry hits that back corner of the plate, gets her body low to the ground, makes it tough for Potts to tag, and gets another big run across the board for the Tigers.
Snow with the RBI ground out. And so now the Tigers have been mightily successful in driving runners in 2 for 5 with runners in scoring position for 5 RBI, and going back to what Mickey Dean told us about being patient at the plate. I think they listen.
Well, I think they definitely listened to Coach Mickey Dean, but also they just simply put the ball in play. They had a few strikeouts, 3 strikeouts the first time through the lineup, a couple pop-ups, couple groundouts, but then it just became as simple as putting the ball in play. They've hit a lot to the shortstop position, but it's been effective and it's worked. So if that's the key, then you got to keep going with it.
Again, a great learning opportunity for this Texas A&M group who's so young. They graduate a veteran infield. You have Kristen Koyas at shortstop, gone. Ashley Walters, who was behind the plate. Tori Vidalis at first base. And as you said already, Riley Sarton, the only one returning, and the lone senior for this group. So they're going to take some lumps here and there, and they played well. Let's be honest. I mean, they played well. They came in averaging .970 in terms of fielding percentage, so they haven't made too many mistakes. It's just that their decision-making could come into question a little bit.
And I think the biggest key is that you learn from these opportunities. If you can do that, then it's okay. I mean, you're going to keep getting better. Again, we talked about Jo Evans, the growth mentality with her team. And beyond that, you know, they had 2 errors in last night's game, lost by 1 run. So you look at, you know, what you can go and bring back to practice. You can say, hey, we were this close. We missed in these areas. Our decision-making needs to improve. And those are all tangible things that you can work on the next day at practice. So, I mean, if you can keep with that consistency and the growth mindset that we're just trying to get better and learn, then all of these mistakes will be worth it and show up at the end of the season. You gotta remember, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint in this game. You have to make sure you're playing the long game, not just for winning here and now, but building for the end of the year.
As Potts awards the free pass to McCracken. And I think, too, when you look at just the way this A&M team has, you know, responded, when you look at last weekend in their series against LSU, they were able to come back and walk away at least with 1 win after, you know, going against a very dangerous lineup. And you can't learn how to grow from it if you don't go through it. And so now they've got that under their belt as the backhand just goes past the glove of Martinez. And another run scores for Auburn, and they're just continuing to unleash the fury here in the 5th.
Casey McCracken got things started off, Alyssa Rivera got things started off at the back of the first pitch of this inning and does it again. Peppers this ball up the middle, and good base running by Casey McCracken. It's a slow roller up the middle, and she goes right away, all the way into third. Maybe slips up on third just a little bit, but Alyssa Rivera's loving it.
Well, it was Rivera who got on and was able to be driven home by Tannen Snow, who had that RBI double. She's now the 11th batter of this inning as they have cycled through the lineup.
This is a big out if you're the Aggies, because sitting on deck, Kendall Leach, who you intentionally walked earlier in the inning. And now you're also looking at a situation where if you're the Aggies, you're 1 run away from the run rule territory, and you're going to only have 3 outs to try and battle back and score some runs to stay in this ball game.
So watches that one on the outside corner. So she singled in the 2nd. And then hit a 2-bagger earlier this inning. So a quick meeting in the circle between Potts, Haley Lee, and one of the things about this Auburn team and the coaching staff says, look, this is a group that has really had great chemistry. They've taken ownership and are playing really well together right now.
Well, I think the biggest thing with that team chemistry is you learn to play for each other, not for yourself. When you care so greatly about your teammates, that player suiting up in the uniform next to you, that's when you become a better player. When you're selfless, when you're worried about your stats, and we heard that too. He doesn't care about batting average. He wants quality at bats. How can I help and support the team over me? And that chemistry only adds to the belief in that and buying into that process.
This one put into play, handled by the second baseman Martinez, and that will end the inning, but not before the onslaught from the Auburn Tigers. They hang 6 in this 4th inning, and they're on top by 7 runs as we head to the 5th. Well, last inning, it was nothing but the hot bats and finding ways to score for the Auburn Tigers to stretch this lead out.
Yeah, they got some clutch hits, but they also took advantage of some mistakes. They just simply put the ball in play, put pressure on this Aggie defense to make the plays, and they weren't able to do so, and that led to a huge inning for the Tigers and a 7-run lead heading into the 5th inning.
And as you take a look at it, again, it feels like so long ago that Blake Ann Fritsch hit her first career home run to put Texas A&M on top briefly. And since that time, the Auburn Tigers have responded in a major way, running off 8 straight runs.
And all credit goes to Chardonnay Harris in the circle for the Tigers, not only for weathering the storm of giving up that home run in the 1st inning, but really settling into herself and finding the strengths of her pitches. She's gotten great movement, good location, and she's just mixing it up and induced a lot of pop flies in this game. So you know that her pitch is moving.
Well, it's been a good weekend thus far for the Auburn Tigers. You look on yesterday, the softball team picks up a win in their SEC opener. Baseball does the same over Tennessee. You can watch that game right here on the SEC Network after our game concludes. Gymnastics remaining undefeated in Auburn Arena. And how about the men's basketball team in the SEC tournament semifinals? They take down Florida and advance to the SEC tournament championship, first time since 2000.
That's been a while. You know, Florida upsets LSU, and then Auburn upsets Florida. love this time of the year. March Madness. The only thing that's better than March Madness is, of course, mayhem in college softball. Credit to Beth Mowens for coining that.
I love it. I love it. The voice of college softball for sure. The men's basketball team will face off against Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee did win that game.
Yep, in that championship, 82-78. And McBride goes down on strikes.
Second strikeout in a row for Harris. This is a pitch. This is a curveball, but look how well it stays low in the zone and just floats across that plate, clips the outside corner of the plate. Again, you're freezing up the hitter. You know your stuff is moving. I mean, they look a little bit defeated in the box right now.
This one pushed to first base, and right there is Justice Perry to tag out Martinez. 2 away.
This is a nice job by Justice Perry, just recognizing how quickly she's going to have to charge and then puts the tag on. No harm, no foul.
Yep. Well, Harris got a chance to learn behind Kaylee Carlson, who graduated, Michaela Martin, who's still on staff as a senior, had a school record in terms of team RA, but she had a chance to learn, and she's continuing to learn. It's hard to believe after watching this performance here today.
Yeah, you know, and I think one of the things that you credit this Auburn pitching staff, going back, you know, looking at Michaela Martin and Kaylee Carlson before them, who graduated last year, they're really good at buying into the idea that they don't need to get strikeouts every single time, that they trust their defense. They're going to induce pop-ups and ground balls and trust that the players behind them are going to make the plays. And I think that takes the pressure off of everything that you do. You focus on spin and location, and you don't worry about necessarily getting a swing and a miss, but maybe a miss hit instead.
Well, sophomore lefty has kept the Aggies at bay, only giving up 2 hits, one of them being that home run, which is the lone score for the Aggies. And Walls swinging through that one. The tag at first, 1, 2, 3 inning for Chardonnay Harris, continuing to roll, and guess who's coming up at the bottom of the 5th, leading things off? It's Kendall Veach. She's already lifted 1 out of the park. Can she do it again? Caleb Pro, Tiffany Green here with you on this Saturday evening from Auburn, Alabama. The 16th ranked Tigers handling things here at home against the Texas A&M Aggies. And just to remind our viewers of the 8-run rule, we're in that territory in regulation. 8-run rule game has to be decided in the 5th inning. There has to be some separation, and this is a young lady who can finish it off right here with 1 swing.
Yeah, Kendall Veach is so talented, but I think what set her apart this season is her approach mentally. I mean, she's just trying to slow everything down and get a pitch that she can really crush. And that seems really simple, but sometimes you get really excited when you have the power that Veach does and you go and are a little bit too aggressive on pitches outside of the zone, but she's trying to let it come to her.
Oftentimes you hear coaches and players, you know, talk about, I'm just going to focus on my pitch. I'm just going to wait on my pitch. But just how challenging is it for a player to actually do that and wait?
Oh, it's so challenging, for sure. I think the balance is, too, is what you're seeing well that day, because it changes, you know. I mean, some days you're like, oh, I'm really feeling this outside pitch. Other days, the inside pitch looks good, or up or down, or whatever it may be. But I think it's having the confidence to, you know, when you are feeling it, is to think in your head before the pitch, okay, I'm looking middle, and to visualize that, and then seeing it like it's 3D high def, and then going attacking it in your head before you even get the pitch in the zone.
I like that. You gave a great visual with that, with the 3D
Yeah,
high def.
right?
That's a nice way to say it.
I mean, hitting is so hard from a mental perspective because you see so much failure in your at-bats. Most of the time you're failing. So how do you visualize yourself having success when you have more failures than you do successes?
Beach trying to go and chase that one and strikes out.
With one out, now batting number 32, McKenna Dowell.
Well, 7 Innings podcast, wildly popular and continuing to delight softball fans. We've got a weekend recap, plus freshman pitchers talk about that, and everybody loves shagging stats. I don't say it as cool as Holly Rowe, but that's all good. The ESPN personalities covering the sport all the way to the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. Listen now on the ESPN app, iTunes, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
We had a good conversation on the podcast this week on bat flips as well. That was awesome. We got Danielle Laurie's opinion, Michelle Smith, and, you know, they're pitchers, obviously. So you can tell that they had a little chip on their shoulder with that one. Hey, if somebody's going to bat flip me, watch out.
Right, I was going to say, I'm sure they take it a little bit personally. But,
aggressive.
like, can Danielle really talk? Given the fact that, you know, she used to be at the plate. You know, she can hit too.
I mean, both of them did. I mean, they both hit. So they know. They're fierce in the circle, though. Those are two competitors, though. So if they feel like they've been disrespected in any way.
Right. Oh, I wouldn't want to mess with them. I would not want to be on the other side of that. Well, you talked about Montana Pouts out of Alabama. I mean, what other freshmen have, you know, caught your eye?
Well, there's a lot of different freshmen around the country. I think that's what's so impressive is there's some that are, you know, more strikeout early in their careers. There's a pitcher from Troy that's leading the freshmen in strikeout numbers.
As McKenna Dowell, the pitch hitter, and the 5-3 put out.
I think about Ashley Rogers, who's at Tennessee. That really her main thing is she's become a really strong addition to the Tennessee pitching staff. You went from having, you know, only Maddie Moss and only Kaylin Arnold to basically having a full, legit pitching staff that you feel confident in if you're Tennessee that you can throw out there every single time. So again, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you like the Ks, if you like, you know, the pitchers that are just going to get jobs done, it just depends. But there's a lot of young talent.
Justice Perry up now from Prior Lake, Minnesota. Perry had an RBI single last inning. And she's been really swinging the bat well this weekend. She's collected 4 RBI thus far. And we talk, for as much as we talk about the power numbers of McCracken and Tannen Snow and Kendall Beach and Alyssa Rivera, I think you're looking at a player right now who also, you know, has that power. She's got 3 home runs on the season, but you don't want to toss her anything that is interesting for her to hit.
Yeah, she's got 19 RBIs coming into today. Gap-to-gap power with 4 doubles on the season, but just provides a nice little transition in the bottom half of the lineup to pick up a little bit more of those RBI numbers. Sometimes it's good when you have a line of 1 through 9 is to sprinkle in a power hitter or a high-quality RBI hitter in that position so that they can help turn the lineup over.
Going out and chasing that one. So Potts gets 2 strikeouts here. Nothing doing for Auburn, and we'll move to the 6th inning with the Tigers on top by 7. For all of the latest updates and information across the SEC, be sure to visit SECnetwork.com. Here are some of the stories we've got on the website now. How about SEC softball standings? Of course, we'll talk some players of the week in the conference and scores and highlights. Make sure you check it out. 8-1, Auburn on top, and several SEC teams ranked in the top 25. Auburn, one of those teams. But let's look around. Okay, we talked a little bit about Alabama, and you feel like they're going to be tested in SEC play, so that undefeated record will be put on the line. A blue-collar group in Rachel Lawson's Kentucky Wildcats. I mean, they're just tough year in and year out to face. What are your thoughts, perhaps, on Arkansas and in Georgia? Georgia's got to listen to Carlo, so a lot of things can work there.
Yeah, I actually got to call the Ole Miss-Arkansas game last week, and they ended up losing the series to Ole Miss. They won game 1, Arkansas did, and then come out game 2, Mary Half, their sophomore, who's their ace, I mean, honestly couldn't make it out of the second inning. Ole Miss put up 12 runs against Arkansas and went on to win game 3 in the rubber match pretty handily. So Arkansas, I look as a talented team. They have home run power, a lot of potential, but for me, the key for them lies in the circle. Autumn Storms and Mary Half have to carry the team and give them a little bit more consistency and keep the runs down. And if they can do that moving on and get better throughout the season, I think that they're a team that they can upset. They can move on to a super regional, but a little bit too inconsistent right now.
I think they were a fun team to watch last year in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, they got a couple wins. And again, Mary Half had a great performance. Ran out of gas a little bit later in the tournament. Couldn't make it through to the finals. A big surprise to me, too, is the South Carolina team that did make a really deep push into the SEC tournament, looked really good, and ended up finishing 3rd in the SEC last season, is now sitting at 0-5. Got swept by Kentucky and have lost 2 to Arkansas now this weekend. They were ranked in the top 10 at the beginning of the season and just haven't been able to get a win in SEC play yet.
Kayla, we talked about it, a little bit through the broadcast, just about Chardonnay Harris, the terrific job that she's done. Comes in undefeated and is on her way to her 5th win of the season. When you're looking at this pitching staff for Auburn, because we talk all the time about if you have a pitcher, you can go a really long way, but when you look at the staff for Auburn, how has Mickey Dean really kind of put his touch on this program?
Well, I think you heard it from him. He's just such a simple person. He has a really straightforward approach. He wants to do all the little things right, play clean softball, make sure that they're focused on the quality at bats, quality pitches, not necessarily the statistical return. So I think that's where you see the success of this program and why somebody like Chardonnay Harris has been successful throughout this game. You give up the home run, and then you settle in and do the little things right and move on. Michaela Martin, another great example. Last night didn't pitch her best game. I mean, gave up a few runs to Texas A&M, but finished strong, got the W, had 9 strikeouts on the day. For as many runs as she gave up, 9 strikeouts. So, again, they are a team that has potential in the circle, and they have a pretty good depth in the circle as well.
Yeah. 5 strikeouts for Harris. More importantly, I know pitching coaches will love to see no walks given up. As the ninth pitch of the at-bat on the way, and she records now her 6th strikeout of the evening, retiring Morgan Smith.
And just continues to get better and better. Really impressed with her curveball today, especially to the left-handed hitters. A ball that's running down and away, and she keeps it really consistent on the lower half of the zone.
Harris has continued to attack that zone. She's found what works for her and keeps going back to it. And really, the Aggies hitters have not made the adjustments or figured out what to do. Kelby Fortenberry, one of those tough outs for the Aggies, now stands in.
this is one of those performances too for Harris that, you talked about it earlier with Mickey Dean and understanding the game more. She's understanding the game. This is one of those that you put in the memory bank that shows and proves that you are learning and learning where you need to place the ball to be successful and how you can rebound after making a mistake. So those are some of the games that can really elevate you throughout the season.
She, along with Lexi Hanley, the two lefties on the staff for the Tigers, joining Michaela Martin and Ashley Swindle. Martin was able to pick up another win last night, as you mentioned, moving up to number 2 in all-time program wins.
And Martin is a pitcher that is the true ace of this staff, no doubt, has some filthy drop ball movement. I mean, her ball just is heavy and it drops off the plate. She throws it with a lot of velocity too, which is rare for a drop ball pitcher. Usually it's a little bit more spinny, it drops in speed, but she's throwing it in the upper 60s. So really interesting look from her. But to be able to take a younger pitching staff, maybe somebody that's not experienced under your wing, like a Chardonnay Harris, and teach them the nuances of the game and the difficulty of facing a strong lineup 1 through 9 is going to prove invaluable for her future.
And I think that's what's so unique. You talk about the experience of the Auburn Tigers, as Harris, with now back-to-back strikeouts, 2 down. Excuse me.
2 outs. The batter's number 2, Blake and Fritch.
But it's the different voices on the team that kind of help aid and cultivate the culture that you want in the circle and throughout the group.
Oh, absolutely, and that was a huge strikeout, by the way. Kelby Fortenberry's first strikeout in the season comes courtesy of Chardonnay Harris.
Well, she was the last standing in a Power 5 conference to not have struck out. And now Chardonnay Harris, who has had the Aggies swinging the last 3 at-bats for Kays. Watches Blake Ann Fritch stand at the plate.
Again, we talked about memory bank. I mean, you just struck out one of the hardest hitters in the country to strike out. You better remember that one and know that you just put a pitch on the corner that had a lot of movement and a lot of spin and fooled her, and carry that with you throughout the season. Look back on that as a big confidence boost.
Well, these two teams will meet once more tomorrow on St. Paddy's Day at 2 p.m. local, 3 Eastern, to close out the series before Auburn hits the road and heads to Starkville to face the Bulldogs, while Texas A&M will have a non-conference game before they prepare to host Alabama.
Now, Auburn has a tough road ahead. They're going to go to Mississippi State, but then they have Georgia, followed by Tennessee. Talk about good offenses coming your way. Now, looking at the strength of the SEC, Tennessee's another one of those teams that has the potential, after beating Florida in their first opening series, they are in the driver's seat to potentially go on and win the SEC. And that's probably the first time in probably in like 10 to 15 years that Florida is not in the driver's seat to win an SEC championship.
Had an opportunity to watch Tennessee back in February last month at the St. Pete Clearwater Elite Invitational, and they look pretty darn good. They can put it together, and you see the upcoming schedule for Auburn. And Harris catching Blake Ann Fritch looking. She struck out 6 of the last 7 batters. She is on a roll, and Auburn continuing to hang on to the lead as she strikes out the side.
Harris has just gotten so much better as this game has gone on, stepping up for the Tigers and pitching her best at the end.
A chilly evening here from the Plains. Here at Jane B. Moore Field, Auburn still holding 8-1, and a new arm in the circle for the Aggies as Hannah Mayo, the redshirt freshman, now standing in.
And Mayo is going to be successful if she throws it to all zones, making sure she works efficiently in different quadrants of the strike zone. She's going to throw in the low 60s. And similar to Peyton McBride, have a lot of break. Not a lot of velocity, a lot of break. So trusting her spin rather than trying to force the ball through the zone, but relying on the break at the end of her pitches.
The righty now making her 8th appearance of the season out of Corpus Christi, Texas.
The biggest key for Mayo is going to be to make sure she efficiently throws strikes. You know, throughout this season, 15 strikeouts on the year, but 20 walks. So you definitely want to have a lot better of a ratio than that. So if you're Auburn, you need to make sure that you're patient at the plate. Make her bring something to you.
Strike in to Bree Fornes. Well, the road ahead for the Aggies has already been a bit challenging and will remain that way through SEC play. They faced off against Oregon and Arizona State during the non-conference. Already had LSU last weekend. They've also got to face off against Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Arkansas during conference play, and they'll see the Crimson Tide on March 22nd through the 24th. Fornes goes down swinging.
With one out, now batting for the Tigers, number 7, Carmen Greenwood.
This is a nice off-speed pitch. Little changeup. She just pulls the string on Bree Fornes. Fornes was sitting on something a little bit faster. Just not on pace with that one.
And we have a pinch hitter at the plate, Cameron Greenwood. For Auburn. Redshirt sophomore out of Birmingham, Alabama. Take strike one. Two now to Greenwood. The Tigers put up 2 runs off the bat of Kendall Veach back in the 2nd, and then hung 6 in the 4th inning to march out to this 8-1 lead. Peyton McBride got the start for the Aggies. And we've seen Kendall Potts and now Hannah Mayo in relief. And after throwing 2 quick strikes, count now full. This Auburn team has gotten off to a good start, much like they did last year. They had that 15-game winning streak to start the season. They were in the process of matching that this year, but that 11-game win streak was snapped by Oregon. Or excuse me, against Washington in extra innings.
And they've battled and played some tough, close games this season. I mean, they're on the cusp of, you know, again, they combined lost all of those games by 5 runs. I mean, that's incredible. And Texas Tech, who is moving up in the ranks, was a tough loss.
Jam on the inside hands, and the out is recorded. Well, coming up after this one, Tennessee and Auburn in action. Jack Owen, the starting pitcher for the Tigers. Love the stash. 3-0 on the season. Has yet to give up a run. And that one's coming your way right after this one concludes. Taylor Snow lays off of that one.
And going back to the Auburn, they've played a tough schedule, and really the ones that you want back are the Louisiana Tech and the Missouri State losses for sure. You can live with the Texas Tech and Washington loss. I mean, those were well-fought games, hard, tough battles. So, I mean, they're on the cusp of being great. And some little things that they do that I like. I think not only are they really effective in scoring positions, they have high RBI numbers, but they have more walks than they have strikeouts. So again, you're looking at that quality at bats, making sure that you're taking advantage every single time you step in the box. They're doing that. They have good patience. They're taking good pitches.
And Mayo recording the strikeout, so she retired the 3 batters she faced in relief. We move to the 7th. Auburn leads.
Fans, be sure to stay around.
They hang the K's as they come here in Jane B. Moore Field, and they give a toast to Chardonnay Harris for recording 8 so far in this one. It's all about Chardonnay in the circle.
Well, she's done a really effective job of mixing speeds and mixing planes. Her curveball to lefties has been devastating today. Ton of late sharp break. Nice smooth movement that cuts through the zone that's just freezing them up.
2 hits, 1 earned run, and that was back in the first inning when she gave up that home run. Since then, she has had great success today and been really in complete control.
Absolutely, and she's gotten better with every single inning, and especially later in the game, she kind of gave us a little bit more of a variety of pitches and worked the corners a little bit better and more effectively as she faced these hitters the second and third time through the lineup.
Both of these teams and these programs rather have marched to Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series. The first for Auburn back in 2015, and for Texas A&M, they've actually won a couple of titles. The last hit for Texas A&M has come back in the 3rd inning, and Chardonnay Harris has retired the last 11 batters, 7 of them strikeouts, including Riley Sarton just there.
Yeah, once again, just getting better throughout this game. Goes upstairs on this pitch. A little bit of rise ball on the outside corner to Sarton. You know, it's interesting. This Texas A&M team has just looked befuddled at the plate all day long. When you're facing a pitcher that's being really effective with their spin and movement, typically you want to sit on one pitch. I think that they've pretty much been swinging at whatever. They're not really zoning in on one half of the plate. I think they're off balance on the off speed, and then I think the frustration takes over, and that's when you chase the rise. And honestly, it started out with a lot of pop-ups, so they were under it. Never really quite found a way to make an adjustment, with the exception of the Blake Ann Fritsch home run.
Harris tried to paint that outside corner. Everybody inside. J.B. Moorfield said, I wanted that one. That looked good.
Yeah, that was close. Man, I don't know. I don't know with that angle. I don't know how close that really is to clip in the outside corner of the zone.
And right through, just stopped of going all the way in the infield by the glove of Casey McCracken. But again, just the third hit given up today by Chardonnay Harris.
And one of those hits was a bunt, one of them was a home run, but this is the first time that the Aggies have hit the ball hard through or almost through the infield on the ground. And as good as that adjustment is by Klingler, it's a little bit too little too late.
Now running for the Aggies, number 12,
As the
Maddie
Aggies
Gottball.
are down to their final 2 outs. Pinch runner in at first base for the Tigers as Haley Lee steps up. And you and I were having a conversation during the break. We saw that Auburn fell to the Red Raiders earlier this season, and just kind of going around, you know, the different conferences. Big 12 is beefed up so much more with the Oklahoma transfer of G. Juarez and Sale in the pitching circle, but then also Texas. But it seemed like the Red Raiders coming out of nowhere.
Hey, I think I'm just excited to watch Big 12 play this year. I mean, again, you talk about Mike White going to Texas. You talk about the Red Raiders coming on the scene in a really, honestly, out of nowhere and quickly. I mean, how well they've done. They've beaten some really good opponents this season. But the race is going to be so good. Oklahoma's pretty much been in command for the last how many ever years. And it's going to be interesting to see a good battle finally in the Big 12.
Well, that'll shake things up and make it an interesting landscape as Chardonnay Harris continuing to control from the circle. Another strikeout recorded. She's reached double digits now, and one more out to go.
Can't say enough about the day that Chardonnay Harris has been having. I mean, the changeup, so good. Look how out in front that swing is. I mean, just, again, fooled. You can tell that this Aggie lineup is getting frustrated. And some days it's just your day as in the circle, right? You're just feeling it, you get on a roll, you get into a really good rhythm. The other thing, I think that she's done a good job of keeping her pitch sequences a mystery. They're not predictable. She's got Ks on all of her pitches, both the rise ball, the curve ball, and the drop ball, off speed. Now has the opportunity to close this game out.
Little dribbler charging in from shortstop is Taylon Snow, and that does it. A complete game victory for Chardonnay Harris, picking up her 5th win of the season. More importantly, clinching the series for the 16th ranked Auburn Tigers. Tennessee and the men coming up for the Auburn Tigers. Over for Caleb Rowe, I'm Tiffany Green saying so long.